right, so I am back with another interview. This time it's a repeat customer. We've got wsoul13, or I'm just going to be calling him Soul for the rest of the night. Soul, do you want to do just a quick reminder to everyone who you are? Just real quick introduction of yourself.
Hey, Clueless. Thanks for having me back on, man. It's wsoul13, your friendly guide maker from Reddit. I do F2P slash low spender guides there. You can follow me there, wsoul13 on Reddit. And Clue wanted me back, so I'm back.
So before we get into what we wanted to talk about tonight, what have you been doing since the last time you were on here? I know that you got your Arbiter, which meant obviously you're not going to be talking about your progress to Arbiter anymore. But what have you been trying to work for in terms of either producing content or your goals for your account going forward now?
So now that I have Arbiter in my account, I'm trying to test the theory of 100% teams with Arbiter in your roster. I haven't really gotten that 100%, but it's definitely helping. Arbiter is helping a lot. So it's just getting all my teams up to 100% at a decent run times for all the dungeons. Right now, the one that is actually giving me the most trouble is Ice Golem in
Really?
terms of getting the runtime down
Oh, okay. Yeah.
for Ice Golem 20. So my Ice Golem 20 runs are really long. That sometimes they could take like 15 minutes. So I've been trying to figure out a way to get the runtime down without wiping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could get it really fast. I think the fastest I got it was like 3 minutes or something. But
Just not consistent enough.
it tends to wipe, yeah, from the ice golem slams.
That's fair.
So that's what I've been working on. Just working on all my teams, getting them to 100%. I put Septimus up and Royal Guard up. So I've been doing this 13-second speed run in Spider 20, which is super fun. I'm trying to get a video out on that actually because it's so much fun to do. But I just haven't had time to put it together. But I think that was my last guide. Was I put out a guide about enemy max HP damage, how free to play low spenders would build their champs that way if they happen to pull one,
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm at just maximizing my end game teams, trying to make them run as smoothly as possible. It's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun. My that spiders team I have is super fun. It's Royal Guard, Septimus, Dracomorph, Gurptuck, and Arbiter.
I mean, that sounds to me like it's a lot like the biggest of whales. That's a similar team to what they run.
I
So
know, right? Isn't that crazy? And I'm
yeah,
running it on an F2P account. It's just, of course, that's just luck. I'm not asking people to duplicate that team.
right.
But if you happen to have pulled a enemy max HP champ like a Cold Heart, I think I put up a pretty decent guide about it, like what to prioritize, how to build, what stats to look for in gear. Because I was like, I at first me as well, I thought it'd be impossible to build on like a budget. But then I looked at my gear and I was able to get something together. It was pretty fun. I think flat def boots on my Septimus because that had the best crit rate rolls on Savage set.
So something
You believe it?
that's interesting about that actually is so Draco is actually less important now for that team, right? Because of this most recent
Yeah.
fusion, because of Fane.
Yep.
Um,
Yes.
Actually, let's just go ahead.
Exactly.
Let's just talk about this fusion. I know we have a lot of stuff, but let's talk about this particular fusion. I know that a lot of people, especially even some of the that were kind of trying to give advice to free to play players, said that this fusion was either impossible or just not worth the effort. How did you feel about it? Your first thoughts, and now that it's we've gotten through the almost 2 weeks of it now.
Okay. So my advice has always been pretty consistent every time fusions come out. And if you have the resources, you should go for it every single time. That's just my advice almost all the time. But with this one in particular, I did put a bit of a warning out to my readers about just the potential overall cost of it, energy wise. It felt like energy wise, it was pretty steep
Right.
compared to the fragment fusions. Me in particular, the only reason I got a discount was I was able to do the chap training pretty easily. Not easily, with a little bit of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only tournament I really had to participate in was, I think, Ice Golem. And the other three tournaments, I think the two, you're skipping the two if you got the champion training. So you're skipping, I think, Fire Knight and Spiders.
Yep, you got to
And
skip
then the
those two.
Dragon tournament, I pulled from Mystery Shard from trying to go for the champ chase rare.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I got a little bit lucky. I got a little bit lucky. I think I spent about probably like 500 gems
That's probably
to get all the energy. Yeah, to
well.
get the fusion. So I'll have enough for the next one for sure. And the other little warning I had to put out was I think a week into the fusion, they confirmed that they were going to do another fusion at the end of this month.
Yes, a fragment.
So I had to kind of do a major edit and just say, hey, there is a fusion at the end of the month, a fragment fusion, and if you feel like you're going to be short for this one, or you're going to be strained for the next one, and you want to, gamble and wait for the next one, go ahead. But like I said, I think Legos have the most upside of any champs in the game. That's really my stance, regardless of if they're good or not good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think in general that's probably the right way to think about it. Is anytime you can get a guaranteed legendary champion, you should try to do that. And
For sure.
that's definitely what I've done on both of my accounts now. Um, so similar to you on the on my alt account here, the free to play account that I'm working on, I also focused on doing the champion training event to get Baroth, and that was so that I didn't have to do Fire Knight and Spider, and that was something that
Yes, that was a big discount.
I I
Big discount.
I really think that that was intentional by Plarium, because if you are an in-game account, like very in-game, you don't really want to spend a ton of time on champion training, right? Like realistically, if you can just spend all your energy on dungeons and you have them at 20 and on farm, it's probably easier to do Spider 20 and Fire Knight 20 to get those points than it
Mhm.
is to spend the tons of energy that it's required for the champion training. Um, that's just my
True.
gut. I don't know if that's 100% true. On the other hand, if you're at the point where you definitely can't farm Fire Knight or Spider 20, then you're probably at the point where you're wanting to level up a bunch of champions. So
Yeah,
having that
exactly.
be the epic from the champion training event, I think was really, really nice, is probably the word I would use from Plarium's
Yeah,
part.
it's well thought out. So, which is not very Clarion-like, I guess,
Yeah,
if
that's
you're
that's
a
fair.
hater, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is they've given us options on this particular fusion right here. So basically, like you said, if you're an end game player, you can farm Fire Knight and Spiders, which you're gonna farm anyway. Or if you need food to make chaps for faction wars or to progress more in those dungeons are hard to progress in. I mean, it took me a long time to break Spiders 20.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. You get to farm food and you get to get points for the fusion champ, which is really good. So it was very doable for the F2P low spender community. I guess it really ended up being a lot more doable than even a lot of the content creators were letting on. Uh, but the thing that kind of surprised me was the timing of the next fusion,
That it's going to
which
be
is going
so
to be the
soon.
end of this month.
Yeah.
Wow. So that is a little bit of a squeeze right there.
So
It really depends on how strapped you are for resources right now, but that definitely complicates the decision making, I think.
now I would say, thankfully, the fragment events don't require potions. So you're not going to have to spend any
Yes.
time in the middle to get your potions back up
And
or anything like
food
that.
for the champs too. Like
Yeah,
right now, I'm
exactly.
stuck at just leveling up the champs.
So both of those aren't going to be gatekeeping basically, which is
Yes,
nice.
I agree.
Um,
Yeah.
I will say that I was actually kind of surprised. Um, so I've got the Summon Rush event up right now, and the rare from the Summon
Yes.
Rush was only 785 points. Um,
Yes.
I know
Which is great.
a lot of people, me included, were expecting it to be much higher. I honestly was expecting it
Yeah.
to be about 1,500 points. Um, and I was keeping that in mind because of that. I really think that they did a very good job of making this a reasonable fusion if you've been fairly diligent about using your resources wisely up to this point.
Yeah. Uh, and in general, I think Summon Rush is definitely a lot harder than Champion Chase because
Definitely.
you have the open shards. So Champion Chase actually, a chunk of my points came from just doing 12-3 runs.
Oh yeah, yeah. I gained several hundred points from just doing that,
Yeah, exactly, right? So
and it happened that it was
that's true.
during champion training as well. So we had to open
Yep,
mystery shards
exactly.
for food as well. Um,
Yeah.
Now, something I wanted to talk about a little bit. Um, I know I didn't warn you about this ahead of time, but the importance of using your shards at the right time. Um, I know that everyone is kind of talks about, on an early account, you want to just open your shards whenever there's an event that'll give you something extra.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
I neither am I, thankfully. My opinion up until this point was actually, unless you have a good reason to, you should only be opening your shards during two times events. And I am now coming around to even that advice. I'm not a big fan of, because it does seem like we're getting champion chase and summon rush events for fusions and fragments much more common than I was expecting. And like those are kind of what is the gate for free to play and low spin players to be able to get those champions. So kind of what do you think is the best way to be using and opening your shards? So like
To me, really. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say,
Finish your question.
for instance, if there is a two times ancient shard this coming weekend, what is your advice on free to play players? Like, should they open it or should they save their shards for the fragment event that they know is coming?
Yeah, so this is my advice. The best advice is stack mystery shards. So you could open during the 2x events. That's basically it. So if you have enough mystery shards in general, you should be able to pull through any of the fusion events. Like me, I've been able to maintain, I think, around a little over 1,000 mystery shards
Mm-hmm.
so far. That's even after all the fusion stuff and the summon stuff. Oh, actually, I did get another discount on this fusion event because I happened to pull the summon rush rare
Ah,
from the
okay.
champ chase while I was popping mystery shards. So that's another thing too. Mystery shards can get you the rares for the fusions,
Right.
which is another good reason to stack them and then wait to open them until the right time. So unfortunately, and if you look at some of the content, I'm not gonna name names, but if you
Of
look at some
course.
of the content creators like guides on how they do efficiency on champ training events, right? Where they're burning their like 1 star, 2 stars for XP, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only time you'll be doing that, in my opinion, is during Champion Chase or Summon Rush. That's the only legit time to do that.
When
To
you
burn
absolutely need the
your
space,
one
yeah.
star and 2 stars, yeah, as experience, because you need to pop those mystery shards open. That is the only time that's acceptable to me if you're F2P or low spender. The best time really is to hoard all those shards, right? So you can use those shards for Champ Chase, but more specifically for Summon Rush. Because Champ Chase, you could theoretically farm some of the points out in 12-3,
Right.
or whatever campaign level you want to farm. But the problem with Summon Rush is it has to be shards. So if you don't have the 700 shards right now for Summon Rush, right, you're gonna have to pull Ancient Shards or Void Shards or Sacred Shards, things like that. So it's kind of like a balance, right? And it really does depend where you're at in the game, is another thing too. So a lot of people give the don't ever pull on 10x events type of advice, which to me it depends on where you're at in the game. Because like me, I'm already done with Arbiter missions. I'm
Mm-hmm.
already pretty progressed in all the dungeons. If I have a champ that I really want from the 10x events, I'm very inclined to try to pull there, especially if it's an epic I want.
Exactly.
So what I usually do in the 10x events is if it's an epic I want, I'll try to pull until I pop an epic. And if I get it, I get it. If I don't, I just stop. That's usually what I do. If I want to go for a 10x, I don't go for every 10x. Like the 10x right now, I skipped it entirely
Right.
because I don't have void. The only one I wanted there was Seer, and I didn't have any void shards left.
Right. Because of last weekend.
Yep.
So,
And
oh,
then
sorry. Continue.
yeah. So back to your question, is should you pop all your ancient shards in the next 2 hex event, right? And I think the answer to that is really it depends. It depends on your account. It depends where you're at. It's hard to give like a cookie cutter answer to these things because everyone's account has different needs. But
Yeah.
in general, it's more permissive to open them if you have the mystery shard saved up. If you don't, then you definitely want to save some of your shards for these fusion events because you never know, dude. We might get like a GG champ from one of these fusion events down the line, and the only thing keeping you from getting it is you blew all your shards. So one way, I guess, if you really want to look at it, is you need somewhere in the 1,500 point range total-ish, probably, per event.
Right.
Is it? It seems like in the 1,500 or 2,000 point range.
I think for the
So
fragment
if you could work
events.
that out in terms of points, yeah, from the fragment events, if you combine both of them, how much did it cost? It's probably in the 2,000 range, right? Because I
I
think the last one was 1150 and then this one was 700 something.
Yeah, something like that.
So if your shards, including mystery shards, totals up to 2,000 points, all right, you can make that calculation yourself. The 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 point totals are available online.
Yeah.
It's available now if you want to take a look. So basically, if you can get the 2,000 point limit, then sure, pull your shards, right?
So
But
some
if you can get the mystery shards, that'll be great.
Yeah. Something I would like to point out. I think the fragment event, the summon rush points were much higher. I feel like it was 1,500 points to get 15 fragments total in the last couple of fragment
Yeah,
events. Um, and so I've got the point total for shards up here. And I agree with you entirely. If you
yes,
can do it with mystery shards, you absolutely should. There is something very, very particular about summon rush events, though. Sacred shards
yes,
are worth 500 points,
yep, yes,
which is 25 ancient shards. For champion
yep.
chase tournaments, it's only about 10, it's somewhere between 10 and 12 ancient shards, is on average going to give you the same amount of points as one sacred shard.
Hmm.
So, if at all possible, and you know that mystery shards aren't going to be enough for you, the biggest piece of advice I can give is save your sacred shards for summon rush events if possible, um, because it is such a huge difference there. Like the eight,
Summon rush is definitely the hardest. I
yeah,
hope I hope people understand that there is a gigantic difference between champion chase and summon rush.
oh yeah,
If there is one thing they could pick up from this conversation right now, is understand that huge difference. This Plarium isn't going to hold your hand and explain to you exactly what the difference is. All right.
well,
Champion Chase is champs from any source. Okay. Summon Rush is from shards only. Huge difference because shards are so much harder to get, so much harder to store, right?
right.
Because you're always tempted to open them. So definitely. understand that difference.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I just wanted to point out the difference in the number of ancient shards that's equal to a sacred for the two different events. I think that's
Exactly.
I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. But hey, we brought it up now, so that's that just that little
Yeah,
bit more than it's
exactly.
been talked
So
about.
if you have like an emergency sacred shard saved up, maybe it is a good idea if you keep one in your back pocket just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I'm I'm
The something I want to mention though about the fragment summon rush and champ chase events
mhm,
is you technically don't have to get all the points, all the fragments from those two events combined,
right.
because they'll offer something like I think 150 shards, right? 150 fragments, something like that, 150 or 120,
I think it was a little
but it's
less this
over
last time,
100.
but yeah,
Yeah, it's gonna be over 100. And if you are gonna skimp out on shards, it's most likely gonna be on the summon rush and the champ chase. And usually you'll get by with about I think 2/3 of the totals from the last time. So I think they offered 30 shards for both combined. 30 fragments, I mean, for
yeah,
both
yeah,
combined. And I think you only needed 20 or something like that
yeah, yeah, something along
to
those
get
lines.
the fusion. So definitely that has to be part of the calculation. So it doesn't necessarily have to be all the fragments, which is it. I think the fragment style fusion really favors the more end game players because they have access to all the content and they can literally just pick and choose which one they want to do. You know,
It's
they're not necessarily forced to pick an event.
it's interesting to me because so I have two different accounts, right? So I have my free to play account,
Yes.
and then I have my main account that's obviously much further progressed, and I'm willing to spend money on it. And on my free to play account, I much prefer the fragment summons because no matter where I'm putting my energy or opening shards or what have you, it's always getting me some sort of resource that I wanted anyway, right? So maybe I
Yeah.
didn't want to spend some time in Ice Golem right now, but I'm still going to occasionally pick up some, speed boots or crit damage main
Yeah.
crit sub gloves, right? Where it doesn't really matter what set they're from. Or at the end of the day, I get nothing and I just get some silver out of it. So in the free to play
Yeah,
account,
and also, I think the fence set and crit rate set is pretty good.
yeah,
It's
yeah, I
pretty
agree.
good on an FTP account.
So like those sorts of things, I actually prefer fragment events on my free to play account. Um, this particular fusion, I was ecstatic about it on my main because it meant that not only was I getting a legendary, but if I spent a little bit more resources, I was getting a couple of epics that I was going to be able to hold on to as well. Um, so I got both Baroth and Caden that I both
Caden's really good.
yeah, I got to fuse both of them, and I'm holding on to the copy from events. I would have liked to have Fane, but I
Nice.
wasn't going to open a bunch of shards to get Fane. Um,
Yeah.
but on like I said on my main, I had some extra resources sitting around, and I didn't mind spending the extra gems to get these guaranteed champions that I knew were going to make some amount of difference in faction wars on my account. So I actually, if they're going to be doing fusions, it's weird. I kind of would rather them do fusions where we are getting new epics, um, because that incentivizes me to go out and use extra resources on them. Um, and the thing is, you always have that choice, right? Like whether you want to spend extra resources and keep the epics while fusing, like that's obviously a lot more resources to spend, but that's your choice to make. Um, Obviously, it's not particularly well received in the community in general because they didn't tell us ahead of time, like, hey, going forward, there's probably going to be a
It
lot
was
less
gonna be
stuff.
all new rares.
Yeah. And just kind of the wording, it kind of seems like that's probably going to be how it's going to be for the Christmas one as well. Because they said there's going to be a bunch of festive champions that are released then, which,
Hmm.
reading through the line or reading between the lines, whether I'm successful at doing that or not, it kind of feels like this is what we're going to have going forward is whenever we get a bunch of new champions, it's going to be for these fusion events so that, holding on to champions may not be something we should be doing if you don't need those champions for faction wars. But that's just my thought.
Yeah,
Like,
I've been like I pointed out in my article. Did I? Or I think I replied to one of your comments. I basically said that I've been quietly raiding my vault for like rares as food and all the level 30 rares I've been putting in the sparring pit. I've been quietly using them up from my vault because I felt like their value was diminishing. So, if we want to talk about why Plarium is doing this, well, in my opinion, it's because it fits their business model a lot better
oh, I agree.
to not have us reuse old champs,
Yeah, it encourages to
right?
be continually spending, which,
Exactly. There
like,
you go.
it makes sense, right? Like, I'm not going to blame a
Yeah.
company for encouraging us to spend money, especially because this fusion, like, the epics were reasonably good. Like, none of them you can point at and say, this is the worst epic in the game, right? Like, none of them you look at and would say that. And
Oh yeah.
it's also obviously perfectly manageable for free to play because like I'm pulling up my champions now because I'm on my free to play account and I'm hovering over the 4 epics that are level 50 and fully ascended, right? So my free to play account, all I have to do is go into the portal and hit fuse and I've got Vergamcar. So
Yep.
not only have they made it so that it's doable for free to play if you're, spending a good amount of time planning and using your resources wisely, but they're also doing it in such a way that people are encouraged to give them money. And I think that's the perfect way for them to be doing things, right? So like they're making it so that free to play players can do content, but they're also making it so that the people that are already giving them money are encouraged to continue giving them money. And whether we want to admit it or not, as free to play players, we're not keeping the lights on at Plarium, right? Like that's not how it works. So we want them to be doing things that encourages people to pay them money, so that we can continue playing the game we love. So I think
Yeah,
this.
so the ideal situation is something like described, right? So basically, that a content is within reach if you put time and effort in it, right, and not spend money, but it's within reach, you know. And of course, if you want to skip through all of that and have all the rewards, then you can spend money. You give player your money, keeps the game going. Everybody's relatively happy. You know, you're not gonna please everybody. That's just kind of a pipe dream. I think a
Right,
lot of people are stuck in that mindset of, well, I'm not happy. It must mean everyone else is not happy,
right.
which I get. There is a very, I'd say, negative vibe, especially in Reddit right now. I noticed that the first time I joined, actually, which is weird, but that's one of the reasons why I stayed was because I wanted to see if the negativity was warranted or not. I think for the most part, I've been able to dispel a lot of the criticisms about the inaccessibility of it, the free to play.
I agree very much.
And thanks.
You've done
So
a
here's
great
the
job.
crazy part about,
I haven't said it enough. You did an incredible job. I love your written content. Not only
oh,
because
dude, thank you so much, dude.
other people aren't doing it, but because you're doing it so well. Which I mean, that's probably part of the reason other people aren't doing it is you're filling that niche. But sorry for interrupting. I
No,
really
no,
feel the need
it's
to
cool,
say.
dude. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the compliment. Yeah, because like I said, these kind of events are good for free to play players because let's say you're at, I don't know, day 60 and you fuse Caden and you can't get the Vergum car. Guess what? You now have a carry for stage 20 dungeons.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know? Caden's really good as a carry. I mean, he can get you through dungeon content if you build him correctly, right? So it rewards you for being skillful, it rewards you for planning, it rewards you for understanding game mechanics, right? That's the kind of the strength of the old style of the fusions. I only kind of wish that they made the rares a little bit better. I mean, I've seen some of the content creators play around with some of the other rares, and they seem a lot stronger than I thought they would be on paper, like Dilgol. I didn't expect him to be that good.
I think it was the void rares in general were more reasonable than
Yeah,
the
the void
non-void.
rares in general were pretty good. Like even the ones I looked over, like Bill Gold, Draconis, and I forgot the other one. But yeah, I only liked one of the void rares. I think I like Ripper Fist.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was the
yeah.
only one I liked of the rares. Anyways, like I said, I think the one thing that Clarium missed out on this was kind of like a slam dunk type rare, you know,
I
that they could
agree.
have squeezed in there maybe. And maybe they'll improve it for next time. Maybe we will get because the game's content is only expanding, allowing players access to certain types of moves or skill sets, right, at rare may not be a bad thing because the content is expanding. So as soon as they've expanded the content, the hot skill set that you would have needed for most of the content might not be the one you need for the next one. Doom
Yeah,
Tower, we're talking Doom Tower, right?
right.
Basically everything we know right now might be turned upside down when Doom Tower comes out, right? And all these champs that we're rating as trash or whatever might actually be good, like god tier good. I'm seeing a possibility of some champs moving to S tier in some cases once Doom Tower comes out.
It definitely is interesting. Something that I noticed looking at the rares was there was a very high emphasis on healing reduction, um, which
Yes.
is not particularly important now, um,
Hmm.
but unless Plarium has absolutely no idea what they're doing, it kind of signals to me that they think healing reduction is important. And if they think healing reduction is important, it's probably going to be important in the Doom Tower. Um,
Yes.
Again, maybe
I
I'm
have a
putting too
feeling,
much
yeah.
faith into that, but that was my initial reaction when I saw those. So,
Yes, I agree. One of the things that really kind of disappointed me about this game in particular was not having the decrease healing as an option to kill Spider.
I agree. I wish that was a reasonable strategy for that dungeon.
Exactly. But now that they're putting Doom Tower out, I have a feeling we're gonna see that mechanic there.
I hope so.
And oh my gosh. If you like especially the newer players, if they're stuck on I think it's Spirit Keep, the one that heals, right?
Yeah, it's Spirit Keep.
If they're stuck doing the tower, that keep, I mean, for potions. Oh my goodness, you will understand how important decrease healing is if they ever make that like an important boss in this game.
I mean, to be fair, on the my free to play account, so I have a cold heart, right? So that's obviously luckier than most to start with, considering how far it is into the game. Um,
Yes.
I knew Cold Heart was good against Fire Knight, right? Because she's got the 4 hit A1 and she reduces turn meter while hitting really hard. So obviously that part of her kit is very good. Um, the fact that she also puts heal reduction, I didn't realize just how good that was going to be. But it's actually already a very strong debuff for Fire Knight, that I think
Yeah.
doesn't get talked about enough.
Yes. Cold Heart is the Fire Knight killer.
Yeah.
Like she is so good in Fire Knight. 4 hit A1, decrease the shields. She can put decrease healing on. Decrease 30 meter enemy max HP damage is like everything you want to beat Fire Knight
And then
is in the Cold Heart kit.
her A2 also, some AoE to help get through the waves as well. So it's not like it's anything of her
Yep.
kit is wasted. So
Yeah, no, she is really, really good.
something we just talked about kind of segues into something else I wanted to discuss. So we got all of these new rares, right? We're probably getting a bunch of new rares in December. How do you feel that this um, is affecting newer players, right? So like obviously they're having the chance to get these rares, but obviously it still affects like their ability to open the other rares that are good now. Um, so like for instance, I'm looking at my account now, and a little under half of my 6-star champions on my free to play account are rares. Um, and 5 of them are non-void. So I have Frozen Banshee, Kale, Aethel, Apothecary, and Gnarlhorn. And I think you'd probably agree that those are all very, very good non-void rares.
Very good rares. They're all like top tier rares.
Um, Now, the problem with them adding in 16, or I guess it's only 12 non-void rares in this fusion, is the current very good rares are harder to get.
Yes.
So I know. Do you want to? How about you just take a quick second and explain um, your free to play? What you call it, the Holy Trinity, right? Um,
Yes.
and then
So, yeah, go ahead. Finish your question. Sorry.
yeah, so if you just want to explain what what your Holy Trinity is, and then we can talk a little more about why I think it's a problem that they're adding extra rares in.
Yeah. So, I came up with this strategy for newer players to focus on their first three rares that's available to them, which is their starter, and then it's gonna be War Maiden, which you can farm. And then the third one is going to be a speed booster that's going to be usually Haikatun, who's an epic, but it's a free epic that you get on your 30-day login. And then you could also pull Apothecary from a mystery shard. If you get Apothecary, use Apothecary. He's very good for the speed booster role, right? So basically, if you're starting at the game, the chances of you pulling Apothecary has now decreased pretty significantly because of all the new rares and pretty trashy new rares, right?
Right.
Especially the non-void ones are definitely not very good, right? Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yes. So pulling any of those new ones, if you're not doing this fusion right now, will feel bad, right?
Yep.
On your mystery shards, you know. So it lessens your chance of pulling a truly account changing rare, which I think Apothecary is an account changing rare
Oh, he
if you pull
definitely
him
is.
early.
Yeah.
And honestly, even if you pull him late, he could still have some use. He's on some end game teams for clan boss. He can be on your faction wars team. Apothecary is so good, and you being less likely to pull one for whatever reason because of the expanded rare pool, definitely not good. Flip side is War Maiden is farmable. They've kept her farmable.
Right.
She's still probably one of the best AoE decrease defense debuffers in the game that you can access for free. Everybody can get her. So that's still good. But like you said, Frozen Banshee. So that's another one that I wanted to talk about in my articles down the line. How much of a big difference she is compared to Kale as a poisoner. And spoiler alert, it's a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, it
She is
definitely is.
really, really good as a poisoner. I don't think it's close how good she is compared to Kale. So on the one hand, I feel like it's an opportunity for Clarium to expand the role of rares, right?
Yeah.
The flip side of that is it's also an opportunity for them to turn rares into another gatekeeper type role in the game, to where players will have even less options, even at rare, because of how hard it is to pull a specific one because of all the new ones we've been adding. 16 rares into the pool. That is a lot of rares.
Yeah. It really
And
is.
the 12 that you can pull from the mystery shards are literally all trash. So it's like I don't know. Is it information overload at this point? Are people just gonna be looking at this and be like, every time they pull a rare, they'll be like, "Oh my God, is this rare good? Is this rare good? Is this rare good?" You know. I mean, it's a gotcha game, and that is the only way they can expand our rosters. Our reason to play is to have more champs, learn more things, add new mechanics. So these rares could be a way for us to access the new mechanics. I think there are some opportunities for them. to put some of the cool mechanics onto the rares, like stripping buffs or lowering buff timers, stuff like that,
Right.
increasing uh increasing your own buffs, like so you can take off your enemies' buffs or you can increase your own buff timers. Things like that at rare, I think would be really good. And I think we've yet to have super solid options on those kinds of roles at rare. So the jury's still out for me.
So
I'm not sure yet if it's gonna be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm gonna have to see what they do on the next one. If they're gonna do another 12 trash rares for Christmas, it's gonna become an even bigger issue.
so to me, the three most important non-void rares in my mind. I'm going to tell you what there are, and then I'll let you guess at why I think they're most important. But the first is Apothecary. The second, in my eyes, is actually Gnarlhorn. And then the third is a tie between Coffin Smasher and Bogwalker. So, um,
Yes,
what what are your thoughts on me saying those three champions, or again, like a pair of champions? Um,
I think you're right.
and
They would be the top three. They would be the top three mystery shard rares you can pull.
and just
I'm
because I
hard pressed to think of better ones.
I think we're on the same page as to why.
Yes,
Because the champions that we get for free, whether it's from farming or login rewards, until very, very late, basically till Sill of the Drakes, really, we don't get anyone that does what Apothecary does
what
nearly as
goes through
efficiency.
the
Uh, so,
yes.
so Gnarlhorn, there isn't a champion that gives AOE crowd control in any manner that's farmable.
Nope.
Gnarlhorn is
100%
absolutely
to hit
huge.
too.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So there's a Graybeard has what is it like a 50% chance after masteries or something along those lines.
Yep.
Um,
Not
Ex-
good enough.
Executioner is interesting because he has AOE turn meter reduction of 20%. It's not amazing, but it's interesting. Um, but still, that's not the same as like freezing or putting someone to sleep. Sleep's not as
Yeah.
good of an example, or provoking or stunning, which Gnarlhorn does very, very well.
Yes, sir.
So I think,
I don't think it's close, by the way, between Executioner and Arlorn.
oh yeah, yeah, Gnarlhorn's way
It's
better.
not close.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with you.
it's definitely not. Because I fell into that Executioner trap when I first started the game. Because all the older content about Executioner was such glowing reviews about him, even though that was pre-nerf Executioner, I guess, and that was a time where there wasn't a lot of rares available or not a lot of good champs available.
Right.
But now, thinking about how Executioner fit into my whole game, he's such a bad champ. I hope nobody puts any time or effort in Executioner.
I mean,
He's not very good.
my thought is I hope no one has to, right? Like, I hope everyone's able to get
Yes.
champions that they don't feel like they have to use Executioner. Um, so, and then the last champion, the last pair that I talked about being Bogwalker and Coffin Smasher, um, we just we don't have the big version of Attack Down that's easy to get, um, and
Yeah.
that's such a huge
Coffin
debuff.
Smasher is very good.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
Bogwalker's
I
still very good
definitely
too. I
like
used him for a
Coffin
while.
Smasher better. Bob Walker is also pretty good if you can either or. At least you have access to the skill, which is a gatekeeper skill for clan boss.
Yeah.
So you'll need it no matter what.
Now, to be fair, I agree with you. Coffin Smasher is better in terms of purely getting attack down on. Bogwalker
Yep.
does have the small version of increased defense, so if you don't have that
Yes.
in your team as well, he's still very good for that role.
Oh
But
yeah.
in either case, like we just don't have that, and these fusions that are putting out a lot of rares make it even more difficult. Um, so that's my big concern with
Yes.
how they did this
So
fusion.
here's the thing. Um, I think Larry knows this. I mean, I would be shocked if they don't know this data, right? That
Oh yeah,
there are certain skills that we need in order to progress in the game, right? So decrease attack is definitely one of them. Crowd control is another one of them, and speed boosting definitely very good as well. Although there's a lot of options for speed boosting, so not so much in that area. But definitely crowd control and decrease attack. You can't get them unless you pull a champ that does those things. So that would have been a wonderful thing to add, honestly, in any of these rares. There's somebody that just does that. Even if that's the only thing they were good at, like their entire kit is trash, but they had a viable way of putting on those two debuffs.
Right.
I think that would have been just fine. Because it'll just give people options, right? Options is so the truly like homeostasis, like the part where it's at balance for me would be is if there's a diverse enough champ pool that if you pull the lesser version of a certain skill, it'll take more effort, but you can get it to work.
Right.
That would be my ideal outcome. So how do they do that? Well, they're gonna have to give us better rares than this, than, than these like trash rares we got this time around.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So, something a little more positive. Um, I know we briefly talked about it the last time you were on, and it was Drexstar fragments in the bazaar.
Yes.
And it was fairly positive when we were talking then about the Drexstar fragments. Do you still feel the same way? That it's
Do I feel like
mostly a positive?
it's doable for that? It's a positive thing to have the
Yeah.
Drexstar.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah, I actually feel I actually feel even better about it now that I've seen how easy it is to do. So here's what happened to me with the Drexstar thing. I kind of fell into this trap also from content creator advice, right? I'm not gonna name names, but content creators basic. Are you still on, Clue?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. So content creators basically told us that, hey, put up weak defense on your tag team arena and just stay in bronze. Stay in bronze, whatever, the lowest level of bronze, and just get your easy farms throughout the day. And that should be cool. The only problem was this was before Advanced Quest came out.
Mm-hmm.
So before Advanced Quest came out, if you follow that advice, you'd be a little bit short to get a Drexstar shard every day, right?
Yeah, I think you needed bronze
Kind of
3.
feels bad.
Yeah.
Yes. So that kind of feels bad to me. Good thing they put Advanced Quest out. Now you can keep doing that strategy still if you don't have 12 champs that are synergistic enough to go up, right? And you can get your Drexstar shard every day. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's doable. It's free-ish,
Yeah.
you know. To me though, you should actively think about making your tag team arena teams viable. Not great, but viable. Because I felt like, oh, silver must be out of reach, right? If I'm not some kind of whale or whatever. But no, I was able to crack silver. I've been on silver arena for I think the second week in a row now.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to get some of the accessories. I was able to save up some extra gold for the 300 energy. If I wanted to, I can get the 300 energy now. Don't have to feel bad about spending 1,000 gold for that.
Right.
Because now I have enough to get the Drexstar fragments and the free and the accessory. I can get that as well, right? So I think it's a big mistake for progressing players to completely overlook Tag Team Arena, right? You shouldn't go out of your way to, of course, build amazing teams there because unless you actually do have 12 really good champs, you probably won't be able to build really hyper competitive teams there. But if you make them viable, like they have a core strategy, and all three teams of yours have some kind of core strategy that they execute, I think that's pretty good, and I think that can get you pretty high, maybe even silver. It got me to silver.
Yeah, so my experience, I haven't really put much effort into tag team. It's mostly just been okay. What champions have I currently been leveling up to use? And I'm also keeping in mind, okay, how could I, if I wanted to improve my tag team, I would need to, power up a champion to fill this role. And then I go back and look, okay, what champions do I have that would fill this role that I also need in faction wars? Um,
Yep.
and I think that's how people need to be looking at it is you can be working on both of those areas at the same time. And actually that's
Yes.
how I decided what or how I was going to decide what my fifth member of my spider team was going to be. My choice was between Soulbond and Armiger, and I was leaning more towards Soulbond because I thought my barbarian team was going to be closer to being able to push further. Um, Now, to be
Yeah.
fair, I also had a good amount of other turn meter, so the fact that Armiger does turn meter better than Soulbond wasn't as big of a deal. But just like
Yes.
those small
I think because you have
decisions.
cold heart, right?
Yeah, Cold Heart, but I also have Tayrell and was going to use Haikatoon as well.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh, there we go. So yeah,
so
you're good then.
the fact that the important takeaway isn't the particular champions I had. It was more you need to be thinking about every aspect of the game and how it fits together if you have a limited
Yep.
resources, which most of us
There we go.
have limited resources, right? We're not all big
Exactly.
boys.
Yep. That's why I think part of that equation should also be tag team arena because those accessories are really really good. Like if you just happen to get lucky on any of those accessories, it could be a game changer on your account. They're that good.
Oh yeah, they
Any
definitely
one
are.
of those accessories, if you get a good one that you need on a champ that you use, I think it's going to change your account. So figure having a kind of even a skeleton of a plan to try to get the silver, and you don't even have to stay there all the time. You could because once you're in for the whole week.
Right.
So yeah, if you can figure out a way to get there, get your rewards. It's great. Dregstar shards. Surprisingly, my main problem is remembering to get them.
Mine too.
So that has been the only struggle I've had with the Dregstar shards.
My
So I feel like if players put some attention to it, then I think it's reasonable that they can get it in something like 150 days maybe of playing.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um,
I think that seems very reasonable.
So something my experience, even just in so I fell down to bronze 2 because I had a lot going on last Sunday. Uh, but when I'm
Hmm.
in bronze 3 tag team, that's actually enough gold bars that I can buy the energy on cooldown. I can buy the ancient shard on cooldown, and I never miss a day of Drexstar fragments, and that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's great.
Um,
Big deal. I agree.
so like I've been very happy with how the tag team arena is, and especially the rewards. Now that we've had the advanced quests, I think the advanced quest really helped flesh out better what the role of tag team arena is, because it really showed us just how many gold bars we actually can get a day, and I think that's a big deal.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's overlooked because a lot of the content creators were very dismissive about it when it came out, So it kind of like set the mood early that this was not gonna be good, don't even worry, right? And so it just kind of set a lot of people at just like a negative mood about it, in my opinion, because of all the early hate that it got when it first came out.
Right.
And if you look at it objectively, I feel like it's such an under-tapped resource in the game. And if you aren't participating, you know, I think you're missing out.
So since we're talking about just arena in general, um, something just
Yes.
very quick. I just want to talk about classic arena for a quick second. Um, so we all know that there's page of I call them bots. It's whatever you want to call them. They're basically free wins, right? Um,
Yep.
and I know Plarium has said, it's a glitch in the matrix, right? Like there's a problem
Mm-hmm.
with the algorithm. That's why it has some. Anyone with half a brain knows that that's a lie, right? We know that they're lying. We know
Yes,
that's not the case.
it's
These
a
are
lie.
intentional, which is that's fine. I kind of understand, right? Like they are fixing a problem, so to speak, and it's just not a very elegant solution to that. So they don't want to admit that they had to give up and this is their solution. Um, to me, I think it's fantastic, right? It means that they're willing to look at these
Yes.
ideas, right? Even if this isn't the perfect solution, and I don't think it's the perfect solution, they're showing a willingness to try. And that is absolutely huge. Um, that was just kind of a small rant at them
Yeah.
saying,
No, it's good.
saying that it was an accident. Something I did want to talk about is,
Definitely not an accident.
yeah, it's obviously not an accident, but so I'm looking at it right now, and obviously my team is very good. Um, my
Yes.
team is Haikatoon, Sifi, Tayrel Solus, right? So like very strong team. Uh, with reasonable gear, probably could have gotten into Gold 1 before these changes. Um, I'm comfortably sitting at 3,500 points in Gold 4. And I know that from Reddit posts and talking to people in Discord and just talking to people in my stream, there are a lot of people much higher in gold than they otherwise would have been. Um, which means that they were able to progress more. And I know that this is something I think I talked to you about a very small amount. Was not just the fact that this allows your Great Hall to progress faster, but just the extra stats you get from being higher tier in Arena is a huge deal in progression around the game in general. Um, and I really think that the missions had that in mind, right? Like the extra 20% HP attack and defense you get from being in Gold 4 makes it so that you can do Dragon that much easier. It makes it so you can do even Minotaur 15 just that much easier with
Minotaur
20%
15. Yeah,
stats.
for sure.
Um,
Yes, sir.
so I, I understand that it's not like the best long term solution. I'm sure they're going to have another fix or they're going to try some other things. But in the short term, this is probably the biggest thing they could have possibly done for new player retention. Um, what are your thoughts on them adding the bots in like this?
Uh, like pretty a lot like you. Horrible long term, short term, amazing. So people get to catch up on all their really crappy win percentages from this, I don't know, 3 or 4 month hard arena
Mm-hmm.
thing we've been doing. I actually put out 2 articles about this. The first one was my how to break into how to build your arena team as a low spender free to play player. It's called the F2P Low Spender Arena Guide, right?
Right.
I did that, and I think around the day I published it was the day they put the bot sheets out.
I think so too. Yeah, I remember commenting on that post.
Yes.
So,
So I was like, oh, okay, I didn't even have to do this anymore. But in case they do pull back the bot sheets, I've already made the arena. I've already made my arena guide. I don't think I'm going to change much of what I wrote in there. And then my follow up to that was me gemming my way back to Gold 4 just to see how much it would cost.
mm-hmm.
And I think I spent somewhere in the 800 or 700 gem range going from, I think, Silver 3. I think I
Okay.
started from Silver 3 or Gold 1 or something like that. But if you're a player in the game and you're stuck at the mission, right, definitely cash in that mission as soon as you can. Make it a priority. Put gems in it if you have to. I think that's a pretty safe recommendation because Clarium has said that it was going to be temporary.
Right.
So it's up to you if you want to call their bluff and
Think that it's going to be
save
permanent.
your
Yeah.
yes. But in my opinion, if you're stuck at a certain arena mission, especially if it's a touch X tier, like a touch silver 4 or touch gold 1 type mission,
Right.
I'd say you just gem out and get it as soon as you can. while these bot sheets are still available. I think some players are having a harder time finding it. So, in terms of what I really would have wanted them to do as a solution, my main suggestion has always been to create a new tier, which is higher tier than gold but lower tier than platinum. Let's call this diamond tier.
Mm-hmm.
So this graduates all the end game gold four players into a new tier where they can get better rewards, it out with players at the same progression level as them. It will create trophy inflation if they couple that new tier with a lot less trophy penalties on the lower tiers. So if they couple this new tier with a lot less trophies with the lower tiers, I think they have the makings of a very strong long-term solution
Mm-hmm.
to how they can fix Arena. I have no idea why they haven't done this because I they did this with Clash Royale, and I feel like that's a successful arena type game, and it worked for that for Clash Royale in terms of just the main like arena league they have there. That's what they've been doing. They've been creating basically trophy inflation so players could progress up eventually.
Right.
I think like they can do it this. I feel like they can do this with Raid. I don't know what the reason is why they can't. If it's a coding issue or if it's a philosophical issue. But I feel like that would be the strongest long-term solution they can do because it will still reward you for playing the game like thoughtfully, not just okay, try to find a bot sheet and then get my 10 wins. That feels good now, but I feel like that won't be a good thing to do later on down the line. So if you are a player experiencing these gains right now, enjoy it and maximize. Get as much as you can while the going's good. And then in terms of spending your medals, I would probably try to make sure that you get as close to a level 10 uh, upgrade as you can, because I think that is part of Arbiter missions.
It is. So
So if you could do that
I'm
with
gonna
your
interrupt you
gold
real quick.
medals, that'll be good.
So I'm gonna interrupt
Yes.
you real quick. So I actually have my Great Hall open right now. So they can all
Yes.
see that I have a bunch of ones and twos all over the place. There's a couple of places I even have zeros. Um, my void accuracy is at 6. My magic accuracy is at 7. So there is a mission I know at some point that's going to require me to have 2 at 6, and one's going to need to
Yep.
be at 10. So I'm taking this opportunity now, made sure that I got 2 of them up to 6, and I'm pushing 1 up to 10 as fast as I can. Um,
Yep.
so exactly the same advice you're giving now is look forward towards what the missions tell you that you're going to need to do in the future, and do any of that work that you can now while it's easier.
Yes, sir. Because I don't know. I'm not gonna give Plarium uh too much credit for this fix because they could easily just mess it up again
Yeah.
if they do revert once they find a more permanent solution, whatever their permanent solution is going to be. It could easily be just as bad as before or just marginally better than before. We don't know. So, now you have certainty, right? You can get your bot sheets now. Hit those refresh buttons, guys.
Yeah. So my gut is telling me that even before they put these bots in, they knew what they wanted the solution to be. They just don't have enough development, like enough developers and development time to be pushing things out as quickly as they want. So I truly do believe they know the fix that they want to push out. They just don't have enough people working on it. And I think their code base is just a mess, unfortunately. So what it is they weren't happy with this as a short-term solution because they know they wanted to do something better and they have something in the pipeline. It's probably going to take them a little bit to make it work. And this is like a short-term band-aid. And that's kind of like, maybe that's just me being naive or just being optimistic. But I do think that they have something that they want to get out and they're working on. They just don't know how long it's going to take to actually implement, so they don't want to tell us about it. And that's, like I said,
Okay,
that's just my
did
gut.
you ever see that video Kizzle did with HellHades, and the one Kizzle did by himself about um, Plarium changing CEOs? Did
Yeah,
you ever see that video?
I did see that video, yes.
Guys, if you haven't seen that video, watch it. It's really good. So I guess Kizzle figured out through his training as a financial analyst or something that Plarium changed CEOs around July, which is when we got all these really good changes to the game. And that's I don't think you're gonna be far off, dude. Honestly, I feel like you're gonna be right on the money eventually. I just don't know the timing
Oh yeah,
because I feel like this new CEO is obviously seeing all these complaints about Arena, and the fix is most likely already set. They're just having, for whatever reason, a hard time executing the fix. And the reason might be how well the speed packs are selling. That might be the issue.
that's possible as well. Interesting to talk about those speed packs. There were a bunch of videos and people complaining about the expensive speed packs, and I've been seeing them a lot less. I don't even remember the last time we saw the 6-star legendary speed gear, the like the $60 or $70, how much ever it was. Um, I don't know that I've seen that pack since there was a bunch of videos complaining about it, which is interesting because those should have been bought a lot and should have made them a lot of money. Or I would think anyway.
So this is how I see Plarium. I don't try to read their minds because obviously that's impossible.
Mm-hmm.
What I do is I look at what they do. So whatever we get, that's what's making the money. So remember when you had me on before, I said, "Oh, I'm gonna give them some money, but I'm waiting for Battle Pass 2."
Right.
We never got Battle Pass 2. Instead, we got Advanced Quests. So what does that tell me? It tells me that Battle Pass 1 did not make them as much money as we all thought they did, right? Because if it made them that much money, we would for sure see Battle Pass 2. But we're not seeing it. Instead, we're seeing fusions, we're seeing speed packs, right?
Right.
So I feel like if you want to kind of read the tea leaves, I guess, is look at what Plarium is giving us and is planning to give us, and that should be what will determine what we're gonna get down the line. So they said they were gonna give us Doom Tower, great. They said they were gonna get us more fusions. So obviously fusions make them money, right? So we're gonna get more fusions. Okay. So the question now is, where is the moneymaker on Arena? Because they've been terribly quiet about that. You notice that?
Yeah.
That's not really something they talk about. Um, how they plan to fix Arena. Only that so far they've said, I think that the bots are going to be temporary, right? And they're working on a long-term solution for Arena, whatever that is. I feel like that's code for them saying that Arena, as the way it's currently constructed, is making the money. And the only way I could read that is the speed packs are making the money.
Right.
So
So
as soon as that money dries out, I think is when we will get the long-term Arena solution because they'll have to balance out those gains from the losses of players leaving because Arena sucks, right?
So something that I think is important is there's actually two things that they have to keep in mind when they do stuff with Arena, right? So the speed packs, they don't affect the vast majority of players in Arena. So right now,
No.
especially with the current like the bots that we have, anyone that's not in the top half or so of platinum, the speed packs they're not affecting them at all. Anyone that's trying to compete in the top, half or top 10, especially in platinum, the speed packs affecting them a tremendous amount. because
Yes.
if they're not buying it, they're falling behind. Just like the problem for the normal player isn't that they have to buy the speed packs to keep up. It's more they just can't keep up, period, because there's just not enough points in the system, right? So we talked a little
Yes.
bit before that a lot of games have a like a trophy inflation or a point inflation or however you want to call it. We are having tremendous amounts of point deflation, which
Yes.
doesn't affect at all the very top of the bracket, right? So like it didn't make it any more difficult for the top 10 players. So they've not noticed any difference over the last, month or so now. However, it's made a big difference for everyone else. Just like when Plarium added the packs that were $70 for, very, very good speed gear, because it was the best speed gear that could drop. You're just, kind of gambling on the substats. That was something that didn't affect the average player, but really, really affected the top end of Platinum. And I think that's something that they're trying to deal with, is how do they deal with both issues at the same time? And I don't have an answer for that. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I have an answer for that. But I think
Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say we're gonna see them do something once it's clear to them which side of that equation is netting them more or less money. So it
right,
looks like right now they're still studying it. So them telling you that they have a solution is them saying we're studying the situation currently, and they don't actually have a solution. It's more like they have options
right.
for solutions. Is what's happening right now. I think that's really that's about as legitimate as I can think of what their plan would be. And
So
you're right. The problem with Arena is deflation, not inflation, right? So everyone keeps losing trophies, and it's super hard to climb back. That's why, honestly, on my main right now, I haven't done even if I haven't seen the bot sheets as much, I haven't done the thing where I drop trophies. I'm just hoarding my trophies right now.
yeah,
A
I'm
lot
doing
of
the
the
exact
reason
same.
for that, yeah, a lot of the reason for that is because I don't want to experience what I experienced 3 months ago. By 3 months ago, I meant like the full 3 months
Yeah.
prior to when they put the bot sheets up. That was not a fun time to be playing Raid, and I understand where all the hate came from because it was not a good time to play Raid. You know?
So something I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole in this one, because I think
Yes, no
for
problem.
for you and I think it's best if we focus on like the free to play stuff, because I think you and I have a
Yes,
much better understanding of the issues that newer players and free to play players face than someone that's at the top of platinum or that spends a lot of money.
I agree. I
Um,
agree. I think that is really where we can provide value for people right there, is that type of discussion.
However, there is one small thing I want to point out before we move back to our regularly scheduled programming, if you will. Um,
Go ahead.
Most games that I have seen, if especially in this variety, if they're trying to sell you, so I'm opening up the shop right now. What you
Mhm.
can do is they have packs that is shown to literally everyone, right? So you've got something that's for $50, but if you want to spend $25, you get a little bit less than half of that. And if you spend one hundred
Yep.
dollars, you'll get a little bit more than twice that. What Raid has done differently, which is actually absolutely brilliant in my mind, is if they see that you've been spending money, you get shown more expensive
The
packs
same one.
that are less expensive,
Yes.
that are less efficient.
Yes.
So I've noticed that on my two accounts, which
So true.
actually actually is from an economic standpoint. So not just like what people say, like just making money, but I'm talking about the theory involved. The actual theory of someone that's looking at the economics of a firm. If you have the ability
Hmm.
to separate your customers into willingness to pay and charge them differently, that is an incredible way to maximize profits. And that's what they're
Yes,
doing.
sir.
And other games aren't doing that, and I don't understand why. Um, it blows my mind. Like, I look at this system and it's like, that's exactly why they're selling things. Because for instance, let's say there's a bunch of people that they're willing to spend $2 for a void shard, but they're willing to buy up to 10 of them, and that's it, right? So if you were to put out a pack that was, 10 void shards at $2 a piece, all of those people would buy it, but also everyone that values void shards at more than $2 a piece would want to buy it as well.
Yes.
What you would want to do is the pack that is 10 void shards for $20, you only want to show that to the people that are only willing to buy that. The people that are willing to spend $6 for a void shard, you want to sell them, 15 void shards, and you want to sell it to them at $100, right? Like, or that's a little more than $6 per void shard, but you know what I mean, right? Like, and that's
exactly what you mean.
That's what they're doing, and it's actually like incredible in my eyes that other games aren't doing this. Like I said, I didn't really want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but that's not something that people talk about very much, and it's something that Raid is doing very, very right. Like, I see people complain a lot, and it's like, wait, I'm giving them more money. Why aren't they giving me a discount? And the answer is because you're giving them more money, right? Like, that's why they're not giving you a discount. So, like I said,
I think no, you're absolutely right there. So a lot of people are not very financially literate anywhere in the world, which is why it's very hard for them to understand concepts like these. To them, it just feels like, oh, I'm being ripped off. No one's forcing you to buy anything, right? So this is not some kind of mind control, although the addiction triggers are real.
Yeah, there's definitely a psychology there.
Yes, if you are experiencing a gambling/addiction problem playing Raid, I'm telling you right now, quit. Uninstall this game right now. Seriously, this is not worth losing your house over, your car over, or your future over. It's a game, dude, right? So if anybody listening feels like the game is ripping them off, honestly, my humble request for you is you should quit the game because the game is not healthy for you. Now, if you're going to understand why Raid's financial plan is like that, why they incentivize players to spend money that way, well, it's kind of very reflective of the real world as well. Let's say you're going to buy, I don't know, an iPhone Pro versus a regular iPhone. You're paying a premium for it, but the specs you're getting are not going to be exactly better, right? So I know this is, analogies are flawed, right? You're going to say, blah, 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 blah. It's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just trying to explain to you the concept of getting the upgrade over the minimum is not going to stack linearly in cost in the real world, right?
Exactly.
And having Raid kind of put two and two together and saying, oh, wait, what? We don't do this in the real world. Why are we pretending like the virtual world is different, Because the answer to why the virtual world should be different is because, well, it's virtual. It's a game, right? You can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. So why not create a situation that's good for the players, right? The problem is companies want money, which is why we're seeing the things that we're seeing right now. So if you're a low spender, right? If you're a low spender and you want to buy and you want to spend money on Raid, you have to use that calculator, I think. The one on Ayumilove. Have you seen that calculator?
I have. Me personally, I've actually made a video about this.
Yes.
I think it is an absolutely terrible idea for you to use someone else's calculator.
Yes. Well, that's kind of true, yeah.
Yeah, I very much think that you should truly sit down, take an afternoon, and think about how much would you spend on an ancient shard if you had, let's say, $50 you were willing to spend. What would be the amount of ancient shards you'd be like, I'm indifferent between buying this and not buying it? That's the price you should put down for how much you're willing to spend on ancient shards. Do the same thing for all of the other stuff that gets sold, and then you can very, very easily just create a spreadsheet and be like, okay, this is how much I value these things, and then just throw it in there for what the packs are selling you. Because then you're no longer doing it based off of some arbitrary, oh, hey, Ayumilove said this is way better than buying the stuff in the store. And my response to that is, well, yeah, like, lighting your money on fire is almost better than buying stuff from the Plarium store, right? Like the outside of packs.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so
So the
like,
reason why I brought up the calculator, no, I agree with you. You're absolutely correct. You should tailor things to your specific needs. The reason why I bring up the calculator is because a lot of people have no idea how to value anything,
that's fair.
like in general.
Yeah,
So
that's
this
fair.
is just kind of like the shortcut way. The shortcut way is just using the calculator and then see if you feel good, if you get a good number from the calculator, right? That's kind of the shortcut way of doing. The real difficult way of looking at how you spend any of your money is exactly like you said. You gotta sit down and you gotta weigh things for how you feel like you need to spend for them. Something that needs to be said though is things like I think void shards and sacred shards cannot be obtained with gems, right?
Correct.
So as a F2P slash low spender, and oh my gosh, I remember having like a Reddit argument about this when the Bazaar first came out about people saying, "Oh, it's so steep how they priced void charts and sacred charts in the Bazaar, and also I think the tomes, the prices were so steep. It's true that it's steep, but at the same time, if especially if you're an F2P player, there's literally no other way for you to get it
Right.
but through that steep price, right? So that to me should tell you how valuable those resources are, right? If you are an F2P or a low spender. So let's say shards, right? Mystery shards are your go-to. Ancients are a lot easier to spend because they're a lot easier to get, even if you are F2P slash low spender. But void shards and sacred shards are very, very, very valuable to us
Yeah.
because you can't obtain them any other way in the game. That's all. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. And like I said, I didn't want to go too far down this rabbit hole because I don't,
Sure, sure, I understand.
I don't think either one of us are really um, necessarily the best at being able to say, yeah, this is the right price that they should be
This
selling
is what
this
your
speed
money
gear
is
for,
worth?
right?
No,
Like, I don't.
definitely. Me personally, I am not gonna give anybody that advice
Right.
to spend your money on something. The last time I made that advice was just on the battle pass. That was it.
Sure.
Because that to me was just a no-brainer. That one was a no-brainer. If you're gonna spend money, that was like one of the best ways to spend your money in the game. That was a no-brainer. But all these other offers and packs and stuff, I have not looked into it well enough to have an opinion. But all I'm gonna say is exactly what you said. Whatever you're comfortable spending, that should be the limit.
Right. I agree. So the last thing I kind of want to talk about is kind of wrapping two things into one. We've kind of
Yes.
we've danced around this a little bit and haven't explicitly talked about it. So it's both the advanced quest and now the increased emphasis on faction wars. Um, do either of these things make you want to give different advice to newer players? So, any of the like guides that you've made so far, would you go back and say, well, I could see that you would want to do this instead? Or would you still be giving basically the same advice?
Honestly, me, I would give almost exactly the same advice to new players right now. And one of them is to lean on your strong rares because a lot of the advanced quest requires you to have rares at certain spots in the game, like Clan Boss, I think, and Faction Wars, and what were the other ones that needed a rare? Arena?
I don't think there's
I'm not
arena
sure.
quest for. I think arena is mostly
Okay.
talking about like factions, higher power,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
affinities.
So that's just that's easy. The faction. I think the hardest quest for me to do is the farm materials from Classic Arena. I think that has been the hardest advanced quest for me to do.
So
What about you? What was the hardest one for you to do?
I have not struggled on anything on my main, but I don't think that that's much of a surprise. On my free to play account, I definitely would say that the beat a faction war boss is what I've struggled with the
Okay.
most. Um,
Yes.
there, I think there's still like 4 or 5 factions that I can't do that on my alt. Um, Something that I think is very, very important. If you do not have champions for a faction that you're going to be using for that faction war for a very, very long time, you should not be investing much in them. So just because the quest
Yeah.
is saying, hey, you need to go do this, does not mean you should be bringing up a bad, rare, or epic to, 5 or 6 star. Um,
Yep. I agree.
Now, I think something that's incredible is so. Let me split this into 2 different things. HellHades is an incredible content creator. One thing I would say is he has learned a lot from his free to play series, which also makes me a little hesitant to want to follow his particular advice for free to play stuff. If you're looking at anything that's not like specifically for free to play, his content is absolutely amazing, and he has been
Yes, sir.
he put out basically the faction wars tier list, but in like his flavor of tier list. So it's not like, hey, this is number
Mm-hmm.
one and this is number two, but splits it up into these are the different roles you need in faction wars. These are the rares, epics, and legendaries, and where they fit in those roles and how good they are. I highly, highly recommend anyone that's listening and thinking about faction wars, just go look at his tier list, see the champions you have, and look at like the factions you're struggling with. I would be very hesitant to invest resources in champions that are not on the lists that he has put out there, because he has a ton of champions on each of those lists for the
Yes.
factions. It's actually a
Yeah.
very, very good resource.
So about faction wars, the way I would advise people, like you said, Hell Hades does have amazing content, and honestly, his tier list was kind of the skeleton for my F2P low spender guide that I put up, the team building guide I made.
Mm-hmm.
I actually used his original tier list as kind of the skeleton for it, but I focused more on accessible epics and rares, right?
Right.
See, here's the thing. When it comes to faction wars, you're gonna have to be using some champs that are not optimum for other content, right?
Yeah.
To progress in faction wars, which is a bit of a downer, which means it's a very long-term type project. Okay. So how I would do it is you really do have if you're like a newer player and you're seeing faction wars and you're saying, oh my god, this is impossible, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm not going to say you're wrong that it's hard, but I am going to say that it is doable, right? And the things that you have to think about is mostly the type of support champs that you can get at level 40 or level 50. I think those are the two kind of like sort of game changing things that you can do for faction wars.
Yep.
And the best way to do that is just to do a lot of research on the factions. Like you said, look at Hell Hades stuff. He's already laid it out. And other content creators, they have their own like faction tier lists and whatever. And they're probably all pretty useful, pretty informative. But for you as a free to play player, don't feel like you need to have all these things done because your primary focus should be progression in the dungeons. So if you're not getting your progression level right at the dungeons, at the dungeon level, a lot of the content is really not going to be available to you. That's just the reality of raid, especially with all these fusion events we're getting. So I believe faction wars is still extremely important, and it might actually be the most important, especially after these bots in arena go away. So once these bots in arena go away, faction wars is once again going to be your only source of boosting your stats without the Great Hall bonus. So the way you plan around that is just that you should always focus on creating good teams in dungeons. Because if you do that, in general, they will be able to lead your own faction war squads, right? So if you made a carry for Fire Knight of a certain faction, there's a very good chance that that carry can get you pretty far in faction wars. I'll give you a good example. Gnarlhorn. You know how far Gnarlhorn has taken me?
I have to
With
imagine it's
him
pretty
being the
far.
only with him being the only 60 in my team. Okay, so it's a team of four epics at level 40 and Gnarlhorn. I'm able to do stage 10.
Yeah, that does not surprise me at
That
all.
is that is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you invested one 6 star in that faction. You're able to do the boss, and you're able to farm a 3 key stage, which is really strong in faction wars. Farming a 3 key stage is super super good, you know,
Yeah.
because it gives you access to higher level glyphs, right? So the way faction wars works is, if you guys haven't noticed, is higher star glyphs have the most value. Like you can have 500 2 star glyphs. It's never gonna be as good as 5 5 star glyphs. That's just right.
Yep.
So the higher the level the glyphs that you can get, the better it is. It doesn't matter what the number is. It could be one, you know, because that one could be the one that maxes you out,
Yep.
right? So in terms of the way you think about it, the way you think about Fraction Wars is you should think about trying to progress as far as you can with the minimum amount of 6 star champs that you can put in. So for me right now, I've been playing almost 10 months now. I think the stage that I'm on the verge of completing is High Elves and Barbarians, which I think shouldn't surprise anybody because High Elves you get Arbiter, Barbarians you have Seal of the Drakes, and then all the good Barbarian champs that you can get for free sometimes. War Maiden, Shield Guard, they're free. Zephyr Sniper, she's free. Um, Soulbound Boyer, I think, is Mystery Shard rare.
Yep.
So very easy to build, right? So if I were you, if I were a new player starting out right now, I wouldn't think about faction wars as a limiting factor in the game, but more like a way I could expand my game. So if I play smart, you know, if I play smart, I get rewarded. Like you leveled up on Arhorn. Wow! Not only would you get access to stage 20 dungeons because of him, you'll also get access to a stage 10 faction war crypt. That is pretty strong for one champ, a rare champ of all things, right?
Right.
So I think you're looking out for that. Mostly just value on your champs. You surround them with level 40s that can do something, you know. They don't have to they don't have to be great. They just need to be able to do something.
Yep.
And then just put gear on them. You don't even have to spend that much gear. I think I spend every time I tweak a faction war team, I'll spend anywhere from 500,000 to maybe 1 million silver to tweak my faction war teams,
Right.
you know?
And that
And for the most part, it's good enough.
and that's definitely worthwhile as well, right? Like you're spending that amount of silver to
Yes.
permanently have access to
Yep.
farm those glyphs.
Yes. So I am a big fan of focusing on faction wars, but I'm also a big fan of maximizing the really good champs in your roster because they will carry your faction wars team, not just your regular team, right? So if you can imagine faction wars as kind of like a lower tier dungeon, but your champ pool is reduced significantly, right? So
Right.
like faction wars, it's kind of the easier version of the dungeons. The problem is there's really not much champs to choose from. That's the only thing that makes it hard. Which means if you have a champ that can do level 20 dungeons, most likely they're gonna carry you extremely far on faction wars, even by themselves. You know, like Rearguard Sergeant would be another good example of that, or Grizzle Jarl would be another good example of that. So many champs and I think they're available in every faction. Every faction has an amazing champ that can carry you far into the list. And as far as killing bosses go, you don't really need to kill the boss on every single faction. I think I still have one faction that can't kill the boss. I think it's Ogrin Tribe. So you just need enough, over half, basically. If you can get over half of your factions to kill the boss, that'll be really, really good. And for the most part, you don't need what's over half? What is it? 13 factions,
So
so
it's getting
seven,
seven.
seven times yeah. So like what? 7 times 5? You don't need 35 6 stars
Oh
to
no,
get
definitely
over
not.
half. the dungeons, it's a lot lower than that. It's probably a lot closer to 8 or 10 6 stars to get that kind of progression, depending on which champs you pulled,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So
And then also if you
don't
happen
worry
to
too
get
much about
unlucky.
it, but definitely keep it in mind. Yeah, a little bit of luck. I mean, everyone will experience luck in this game. That's just the way this game is built.
Well, and there's also different kinds of luck too, right? So
Yes,
I would
exactly.
I would
So
say that.
the skill is
Sorry, go ahead.
quickly. I just want to say the skill is recognizing the luck. Huh?
Right. Yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely right there. That there are different kinds of luck in everything, in life included. Right. The skill is recognizing when that lucky thing has happened to you. So if you pulled Narhole early and you didn't listen to me or Clueless, and you somehow crunched him, well, you got lucky, right?
Right.
You got like almost apothecary lucky with Narlord, but he just doesn't get as much press. And you made a mistake because you weren't able to recognize your luck. That's all I want to say.
So what I was gonna say is, so for some of the champions, there are, if you look at like rares and epics, and I've got my champions up now, and I have 13 6-star champions, and a couple of them, if I could go back now, I would choose to not get them to 6-star. But it's because of the order I opened them, right? So like that's just going to be a
Yes.
thing that happens. So like Gnarlhorn,
Yep.
I got him to 60, fully ascended, and then later I opened a Soulless, right? Like
Yep.
you're going to use Soulless. That's just how it works, right? So, and he does
Yep.
the same sort of thing Gnarlhorn does, so you use Gnarlhorn less. That's not a mistake. It's just, you got lucky and got a good champion. Now, something that is
Yes,
important
sir.
to keep in mind, so a champion like Rockbreaker, right? Is that the name of the champion?
Yes. Yep.
Um,
Dwarf. That's a dwarf, right?
yeah. No one will disagree that Rockbreaker is realistically it's a better champion than Gnarlhorn, right? Like he's got better stats. He just does some more things. But the thing is, if you've already got Gnarlhorn, you really would need to think: is a champion that's better than Gnarlhorn still strong enough to make it worth spending all the resources to level it to 60 and to use? I think that is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Is just because you've opened a champion that's better than something you have, it still needs to be better enough than something you have to be worth using.
Yes.
Because
I agree.
it's a huge resource sink. So for me, I haven't really encountered that because, like I said, the champions, when I look at my roster, they're like, well, I wish I hadn't done that. Like Gnarlhorn and then got Soulless, right? So like I also leveled up Aethel because I was going to use her in Fire Knight and as a arena nuker. I opened Soulless,
Yep.
right? So like Soulless, I didn't need to use Aethel as a nuker, and then opening Coldheart meant that I didn't need to use Aethel in Fire Knight. But at the time,
Yes.
those were the correct choices. Just like Mausoleum Mage. I used Mausoleum Mage for an incredible amount of time. He made my account like actually work. But now I've opened Sifi. Sifi is definitely enough of an upgrade over Mausoleum Mage that Mausoleum Mage
Yes.
isn't going to see much use. But you need to be able to recognize when are they better and when are they so much better that you absolutely need to use them.
Okay, I think I can crystallize your point from my experience in Magic the Gathering.
Okay?
It's called win more, all right?
Yes.
Which is a horrible thing to do. There is no such thing as you've already won, and you do this thing that makes you win the game more, right? So
Yep.
if you're a free-to-play, low-spender player, and you're doing stage 20 dungeons already, you've already done all the things, get this champ. And you're like, oh, you have a choice between maybe progressing another dungeon to stage 20 or making your previous stage 20 dungeon better. That should be a no-brainer. You shouldn't you shouldn't just upgrade champs for the sake of upgrading, even though that's kind of the point of the game.
Right.
It's just upgrading things. That's kind of why we're playing this game, is to make everything better. But that shouldn't be your primary mindset. It should always be a functional type mindset.
I agree.
And
entirely.
honestly, that was the only reason why I went and did my enemy max HP champs. I was originally going to skip them entirely and just do other stuff in the game. And then the only reason why I sat down and took the time to get them to work is because I didn't have 100% spider team, which is what I really wanted. 100% stage 20 spider team.
Right.
That's what I kind of wanted to get. And it's a very important part of your game, which is why I spent the time and money and did what I did. And now it spans all my other stuff, Faction Wars included. It makes all my dungeon runs faster, you know. So you should think about it as utility rather than upgrading. I
Right.
think you're right about that. It should be an absolute utility. Avoid the win more type scenarios because those are not a good use of your resources. And 6 stars are extremely hard for us to do, which is why I are we gonna talk about the new faction wars, chap?
So I don't really want to at the moment because they
Yes,
have.
exactly. Because
We don't know exactly
okay, go
what
ahead,
she's going
finish.
to do, right? Like we've seen her kit to an extent, but Plarium's already come out and said, "Yeah, we're going to be making some changes." And I don't really like talking about content until we know exactly how it's going to work. But that's just me. Now, I think it's worth saying that no matter what, the champion that comes for Faction Wars is worth it. So if you have the ability to push and finish all of Faction Wars, not just because there's amazing rewards already in there, but you should do it because it's going to be a very good champion. But talking about the specifics of the champion, I'm a little more hesitant.
Got it. So I've always said this when they ask me what element of raid is outside of reach for free to play or low spender players, and the first one is platinum. That's pretty obvious.
Right.
And the other one, I mean, you can do it right now for the meme by just refreshing hard on the first day of reset
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's fairly easy to get to 3,500 trophies just to touch platinum. Take your screen cap and say, I'm at 2P and I touched platinum. Yeah, great job, bro. Good job. Okay, so um, the first one is platinum. The other one is faction wars, and I've said it at day one of me making these guides that it is a gate kept part of the game for free to play low spenders in the sense of finishing all the crypts
Right.
because technically you're gonna need 6 star champs in all the crypts. I mean, it is possible to get away with level 50s if your champ that you pulled is good enough to do the role at level 50. But for the most part, you're looking at 75 6 star champions.
Yeah, a lot.
I don't even know how many months that's gonna take. I haven't
Uh,
put the calculation up because I
well,
feel like
it'd be
if you play the
65.
game that long, if you play the game that long to finish Faction Wars as free to play, then you know there's really not much convincing left for
Right.
you to stay on the game, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Now, obviously, there are some exceptions. Like Diabolist is a very good demon that you don't need to get her past 50. If you
For
have
sure.
if you have Skull Lord, then the lizard that he brings back to life, you actually want to leave low so it gets targeted by bosses. Like I said, there's
Yes.
there's some
True.
exceptions, but I agree with you in general. Like
Exception.
you're gonna need a
In
ton of
general.
6 stars. Yeah.
Yes.
So just to so first thing, I do need to end this fairly soon because I do Sudoku on my stream at 8:30.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But just to
What else do we need to talk about?
well, there's actually not really anything else. This kind of we got everything here. But the
Got it.
very
Cool.
first thing we talked about tonight was that anytime you can do the fusion or the fragment event and get the legendary, you should. And I think we've come back to that full circle because getting a legendary champion, even if it's not a very good legendary champion, will be very, very helpful for you for Faction Wars. Because it's a champion that you don't have to put any other resources in terms of food or anything just to get it up to 50 and throw some gear on it. That will make a huge difference. Like I was very excited to get both Drotgol and Vergamkar on my free to play account because those are support champions that are going to make a huge difference on those two faction war crypts without having to put
I
any
agree
sort
with
of
you. I
ascension or
definitely
mastery.
agree with you.
So, if you needed
This
more
goes back
convincing.
to Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely agree with you there. This goes back to my recommendation on how you should handle faction wars as a free-to-play low spender, which is to use the sparring pit to level up epics and good rares there.
Right.
Those includes the fusion champs. And like you said, as trashy as some of the fusion champs have been, they're not that good in most of the content, or maybe they could be good in future content, but there is content that they'll definitely be useful for, and that's Faction Wars. If you get a bunch of level 50 legendaries in Faction Wars with no books, no ascensions, right? Just get them geared out, reasonably well. And I think they'll perform pretty good for you. Drop Ghoul, I think, is going to perform for you well there. Gargumkar is definitely going to be a superstar in your Faction Wars team. I mean,
Yep.
if you don't already have the meme lord, right? Skull Lord
Yeah. Yeah.
Valgar, the original meme lord, who ended up, this is funny. A lot of people assign this a meme lord thing, like, oh, the new meme lord champ, right? The people love doing that. But Skull Lord Valgal actually ended up being fairly useful,
Oh
Like,
yeah.
a lot of niche uses has been figured out for him. The faction war cheese, right, with the what's it, the Skull Sworn,
Yeah. Skull Sworn. That's what it is.
having him revive it over and over again. Being a fairly tanky and good defensive champ in arena, right?
Right.
And actually, he's pretty good in Fire Knights. So that's what I'm trying to say with all these like content. When content creators look at a fusion, they look at it from a perspective of, okay, I'm already done with stage 20 dungeons. What does this guy do for me personally, right? Or for most people that are following me or whatever. And they have that kind of zeitgeist. It's because a lot of the people that follow them have access to those champs. There's the reason why they're watching a video about specific champ because they have that champ, right?
Right.
But for us, the lower to the ground type players, the way you should look at these things is exactly like you said. At minimum, they'll be good for faction wars. At maximum, they could be an S tier type champ later on down the road through buffs, through new content being released. It's a legendary, guaranteed legendary, which is the cream of the crop of this game,
Right.
or most gacha games of this type. So yeah, I am fully on board with people trying to get this fusion. Word to the wise now. I mean, it's kind of too late now. If you're neck deep into it this far along, you're gonna either get him or not. But they are dropping another fusion at the
Yeah.
end of this month, so
And
that's just another thing you have to look out for.
and the end of the month is not that far away for anyone that's keeping track.
Yes, sir. So yeah, spend your resources wisely. I mean, that's really the main advice. That's why we're doing this. We're doing this because we're telling people, hey, spend your resources wisely, and someday you'll have accounts just like ours, which we spent no money on, but we're doing all these awesome things in it. That's kind of our spiel in general, right? Spend your resources wisely. The game will reward you for doing that.
Right. All right. So, is there anything in particular that you want to give a shout out to or anything like that? Or I know we've talked about several other content creators as we've gone tonight, specifically like Ayumilove and talking about HellHades tier lists. But like I said,
As always, I want to give a shout out to Deadwood Jedi.
right,
He links my stuff on his page. I love his stuff on there. I'm actually thinking about trying to do the F2P White Whale.
mm-hmm.
If you've seen that video, I've been thinking a lot about trying to do that,
It's a lot of
so I
speed
can
gear.
move on to do Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss. And of course, my flavor of content, which is the no Lego stipulation.
Right.
So I want to see if I can do that. And I look forward to writing more stuff for you guys. So keep posted. If you want, follow me on Reddit. It's wsoul13, wsoul13 on Reddit. Um, I post content there regularly, once a month ish, maybe twice in a month. It depends. But I look forward to making more stuff for you guys to read. All my readers who have been messaging me personally, I've really enjoyed the interactions with my readers. They've been so good. And you guys definitely keep me going. You too, Clueless. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks
I
for
love
coming
being
back.
on your stream.
Did I lose you? Are you still here?
No, no, I'm still
Oh,
here.
okay. Sorry, you got quiet there for a second. Um, but yeah, so just to wrap up, everything that we talked about, I'm going to have that link below. So both Ayumilove and a link to HellHades tier list, both are going to be below the video. Obviously, links to wsoul's most recent, both his most recent post and my favorite post, the Spider 20 post, are going to be linked down
All right.
below.
I love that post too.
Um, but yeah, so that's all we have for you guys tonight. If you want to catch me live, I stream every day, Sunday through Thursday, at 6 o'clock Central Time. So that's an hour before the daily reset. And I hope to see you then. It's at twitch.tv/cluelesseconomist. Thank you for watching and hope to see you in the future.